Young women in America are finally taking a stand. Young women in America, they are finally coming together and saying enough is enough. We are no longer allowing you to take away our opportunities. We are no longer waiting on the so-called adults at woke U campuses across the country. We are no longer waiting on the adults to do the right thing. We are no longer waiting on the wanker spankers in the mainstream media to provide honest coverage of the issue. Hell, at this point, the mainstream media, they are providing no coverage. The media is acting like Blaire Fleming doesn't exist, which is fine. That is perfectly fine. I would rather see the media exercise their right to remain silent than blatantly lie to us while trying to convince us that because Bikini Bob is feeling like a natural woman, it makes Bob a woman. Did you see the flood yesterday? Now, I'm not talking about the flood from Hurricane Helen or Helene, which, by the way, how long do you think it'll be before the media starts claiming that hurricanes are making the courageous transition? Ooh, Katrina started as a Category 1, but eventually made the courageous transition to a thick Category 5 beard. The flooding I am referring to, it was coming from the eyes of volleyball players at San Jose State, as they realized that other teams are no longer willing to play against them. Now, of course, some of the players from San Jose State, they probably support this decision because they don't want Blaire Fleming on their team. They damn sure don't want Blaire Fleming sharing a living space with them. Well, KC, that is speculation. You don't know that. I bet Blaire Fleming is invited to all the slumber parties. If that's the case, how come the NCAA is being sued? How come San Jose State went out of their way to hide the biological gender of Blaire Fleming? In most cases, the cover-up is always worse than the actual crime. It would be one thing if San Jose State was honest about Blaire Fleming. It would be one thing if the young women living with Blaire Fleming knew going into it that Blaire used to be Braden. But when you go to great lengths to cover it up, it makes San Jose State and the NCAA look like they were trying to hide something. If they wanted to know how this would eventually end, all they had to do was read the Bible, because the truth always comes to the light. And now that the light is shining bright on Blaire Fleming, opposing teams, they have returned the invitation to compete against San Jose State with a nice little message. No thanks! Our women only compete against biological women. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. There's going to be 2 videos here on the main channel today, and I'll be on the second channel later tonight. Wife is home from the hospital. We're back to our regular schedule. Appreciate the thoughts and prayers from all of you guys. Everything is all good now, and we're back to normal. Let's go ahead and get to the sponsor for today's video, my friends at the Soapster. Most men don't realize this, myself included, but a lot of the soaps that we are using, those soaps contain chemicals that could lower our testosterone. Unless you're a man aspiring to be a woman, the lowering of your testosterone, that is no bueno. Soaps made by the Soapster contain 0 chemicals, which means when you step out of the shower, you step out with the same toxic masculinity that you stepped into it with. Another nice item offered by the Soapster is their shaving soaps. They're designed to be used with a shaving brush and mug. You simply put the shaving soap into the mug, add a little bit of water, and it forms a comfortable lather that provides a smooth shaving experience. And just like the bar soap, the shaving soaps, they contain no harsh chemicals. So click the link in the description below. Use my promo code BTL10, BTL10. Save 10% off your first purchase with the Soapster. Today's a big day in college football. Finally, after 4 weeks of painfully boring games where top teams are playing the squad from Bum U, college football has finally decided to give us a decent slate of games today. Now, initially, today was supposed to be a big day too in college volleyball, as the San Jose State Sparkles put their undefeated streak on the line against the Boise State Babes. Well, KC, isn't it the Boise State Broncos? Yeah, but Broncos sounds kind of masculine. These young women from Boise State, they are proud to be growing into a natural woman. So, Babes just seems like a more appropriate mascot. Ew, that's so misogynistic. You're objectifying women. Women are not babes. They should only be described as strong, independent women. I can't think of anything more misogynistic than advocating for biological men to compete in women's sports. I guarantee you, if you polled the women on the Boise State volleyball team and you asked them, would you rather be called babes or would you rather compete against King Kong? I guarantee 100% of them are going to go with option one. This afternoon, San Jose State, they were supposed to play Boise State. Their undefeated streak was on the line. San Jose State was looking to go 10-0 on the season. Now, this undefeated streak with San Jose State kind of reminds me of the streak of double-doubles that we saw this season from Angel Reese in the WNBA dump. Both of these streaks are an illusion. Neither one of these streaks are real. For those that don't know, San Jose State has a distinct physical advantage over opposing teams. Their superstar player Blaire Fleming was born Braden Fleming. Since their opponents are fielding teams of girls, San Jose State, they have easily went undefeated this season. They were 9-0 going into this afternoon's game against Boise State, but if you check their record this morning, San Jose State is already 10-0. Well, that's kind of strange. How did you get another win when the game hasn't even been played? Did the volleyball fairy fly in on the cucumber last night and leave a win under Blaire Fleming's pillow? San Jose State was gifted a free win because the young women from Boise State, they refused to compete. Yesterday, Boise State announced that they were forfeiting their game against San Jose State. And now it's unclear whether this decision came from university officials or from the young women on the volleyball team themselves. Either way, it doesn't matter. Boise State decided to take a stand. That was more important than competing in some meaningless volleyball game against a player who is genetically not supposed to be there. If we were living in a sane country, if we were living in a country where organizations like the NCAA had balls, Boise State, they would not be forfeiting this game. They would be winning this game by default. Matter of fact, if we were living in a sane country, San Jose State, they would have a record of 0-10 this season. For decades, the NCAA, they have taken away wins, they have taken away championships from programs that were cheating. Reggie Bush had his Heisman Trophy taken away because boosters at USC put his family up in a nice apartment. For decades, college programs busted for paying players. They were given stiff penalties by the NCAA. I'm sure some of my older viewers, you guys remember what happened to SMU. In the late 70s, early 80s, SMU was one of the most dominant football teams in the country. They were busted a couple of times paying players. The NCAA, they gave them the death penalty. Here we are over 40 years later, SMU never recovered. But when it comes to Blaire Fleming, when it comes to Leah Thomas, when it comes to universities allowing biological men to join their women's team, the NCAA doesn't consider that cheating, they consider it progress. Doesn't make sense to me, but what the hell do I know? I'm still walking around with my natural cucumber. Boise State is the third program that has outright refused to compete against Blaire Fleming. Southern Utah refused to compete earlier this month, and it's being reported that the University of Wyoming, they are leaning towards forfeiting their match against Blaire Fleming. I think it's next week. This is what it is going to take to solve the problem. I've been saying this for 3 or 4 years now. The solution to the problem, it is not the NCAA. It's not the universities. You can't rely on the coaches from the other team who are only worried about saving their jobs and winning. The only people who could solve the problem is the young women themselves. You don't want biological men invading women's sports? Fine, refuse to compete against them. You don't agree with biological men being allowed on your team? Fine, quit the team. But Casey, that's not fair to these young women. Why should they have to make the sacrifice? Well, the short answer is they shouldn't. It's not fair to young women, but right now, it's reality. This is how you put a stop to it. If Leah Thomas doesn't have opponents, Leah Thomas can't compete. If there is no women's volleyball team at San Jose State, Blaire Fleming only has one other choice. You can't rely on the NCAA to solve this problem. You damn sure can't rely on the media. How long have we been talking about Blaire Fleming here on the channel? 2, maybe 3 weeks now? I don't know the exact number, but my videos on Blaire Fleming, they have probably combined for over 200,000, maybe 250,000 views. Combine that with Reddick's Outkick in the Daily Mail, it's safe to say that millions of people now know about this story. Yet for some reason, the woke media continues to exercise their right to remain silent. Look it up for yourself. Try to find one mainstream media outlet that has picked up this story. Good for these young women, though. Good for these young women at Boise State. They shouldn't have to do this. They shouldn't have to forfeit a game because their opponent has a star player that used to have the ability to grow a beard. But that is what it is going to take if you want to save women's sports. But give me your thoughts on this. Boise State becomes the third program to refuse to compete against Blaire Fleming. How come the mainstream media is not covering this story? This should be a big story, right? How many times have we seen 3 teams in the span of a few weeks refuse to compete against a specific opponent? I don't know if it's ever happened before, yet the media is silent. Is this what it is going to take to fight this problem? Or is there another solution? You tell me. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.